The smoke from it has prompted air quality alerts across the region and forced a lot of businesses that were already struggling from the coronavirus to close. Those in the wine industry in Northern California have been hit hard as well, especially as they begin the start of their harvest. Many just now starting to reopen or rebuild, I should say, after the Kincaid fire last year. Let's bring in John Jordan. He is the owner of Jordan Winery and joins us from California on the ground there. John, just give me a sense of how things have been for you there. You said the fire isn't threatening your property in any way, but you certainly have had to deal with the fallout from the air quality, which I imagine affects your harvest as well.
Well, we've had to deal with fires for the last 3 years, going back to the Tubbs fire in 2017, and last year the Kincaid fire. You could, from my house, you could see, I could actually see flames just a mile or two away on the other side of a river, so there was no immediate threat. And then this last fire, the smoke, it just obscured the sky to an extent. It was almost resembled an apocalyptic scene. Today is the first day, however, that we have clear blue skies, and it's a typical fall day. But as somebody who lives here, this is getting awfully old. Now, a lot of people say, see all these fires in the news and think that the wine country has burned to a crisp, but it hasn't. Most wineries are still open. There's been a few wineries that were damaged, a couple that were destroyed last year. But the real damage to our economy and to the people, the small businesses and people that live and work here, is the perception that you can't come visit here, or it's unattractive, or it's been burned down. And so it's that perception of the fires which has caused real harm to not only wineries, but the small hotels and restaurants, on whose tourism dollars we so depend.
Yeah, no question, tourism, a big part of the economy there. What kind of hit have you seen to your particular business and those around you as a result of multiple years of fires?
Well, you see a slowdown in visitor traffic in the days and weeks immediately following a fire. And certainly this year is no exception. So what we try to do is combat that by saying, hey, there was some smoke in the air. The current fires are hundreds of miles away. And Sonoma County is open for business. It's as beautiful as ever. And I don't know if you've been here or not, but it's about so much more than wine. It's not just about tasting rooms. We have some of the great restaurants on the West Coast here. We have so many different climates. We have everything from the Sonoma coast to Napa Valley to the hills of Sonoma. And there's so much to see and do here and appreciate. And it is unchanged and undamaged. And we hope that people will come to visit us.
Yeah, no question. I have visited multiple times. You've got some great restaurants there as well. What have you had to do? I mean, I was just imagining with the restaurants there, especially, they've already been struggling as a result of the coronavirus, the closures that were needed in the early months of this pandemic. What has this fire now done in terms of sort of adding to the weight and the concerns and the challenges these businesses face?
Well, that's a great question. The phrase that comes to mind is adding insult to injury. First of all, restaurants were closed inside, as they are through big parts of this country and throughout California. So what do restaurateurs do? They adapt. It's what small business people do. They move their business outside and find a way to deliver to serve their customers and deliver a high-end experience outside in conformance with local health ordinances. So what happens next? Of course, we got some fires, at the edges of Sonoma County, and now hundreds of miles away. The smoke that's affecting us isn't from here, but still it obscures the sky. And for several days there, the odor was palpable, and you couldn't even see the sun. There's a lot of images about this, I think certainly on Yahoo and other places as well. And so restaurateurs couldn't even then go out serve customers outside because of the smoke, the ash, and the really odd lighting, and just there's an overall degradation of the experience. So now, fortunately, the fires are hundreds of miles away. The winds have changed, and now there's not a cloud in sight, and it's a beautiful fall day, and we anticipate that will continue. But man, when you're dependent on serving people outside because of one crisis, to have the skies obscured in smoke and ash, that forced a lot of restaurants to close for several days. And they're in a very vulnerable spot economically right now in terms of their business. And so that was the last thing that we needed.
John, you said at the beginning of the conversation here that this is all starting to feel a little old. You've had fires 3 years in a row now. This is starting to feel like an annual occurrence. You had President Trump visiting on the ground yesterday in conversations with first responders in California, saying that, things will cool down eventually, despite the pleas from those officials about how there are real concerns with warming of climate. And I'm just curious how you took those comments, what you're seeing on the ground there, and if there's anything you'd like to say to the federal government, which is looking at this saying, well, this is just about land management.
Well, I'm not a forester, and I'm not schooled in those sciences. But I will say that each vintage is a distinct creature to itself. That's why consumers like one vintage over another, and that's all climate driven because there are differences in climate year to year, and those define the differences in wines, even from the same producer, from one vintage to the next. I will say also that we are very tired of the fires. And it would be nice. It would be nice if something could be done about that, whether it's climate change, whether it's forest management, or whether it's our electrical utility companies taking care of their equipment so as not to ignite the damn things in the first place. But I think it's a whole of society approach here. And that's my guess is you want to take care of the ignition and you want to take care of the fuel and you want to make sure that there's sufficient moisture on the ground. That seems to me the most prudent and across the board, even-handed way to look at this.